Close range meta, and it's nice because we actually have a couple different options. Superior is still great even after its slight nerf. We got a little bit of a shotgun in the mix, which is a little bit odd. I don't normally like to talk about those, but this one's actually kind of broken. We have the new SMG, which is static HV, and then some other balancing changes have made SMGs pretty good in terms of variability. You can actually mix it up a little bit more than the long range right now, with primarily the STG. The spreadsheet's already been updated with the data, and I went through and kind of did a similar thing that I did with the long range meta in the STG video that I did a couple days ago. I'm not going to spend as much time on this, but I did want to kind of point out some of these important info stats for these, factoring in the combo TTK and some of the important damage variables that kind of separate certain guns. The combo TTK is kind of like the most likely TTK. If you do get a headshot on the static, which is currently in the meta, then you're going to get a 584 TTK, which is very fast. And that is a very good TTK. And that's kind of where, like, why it excels. It's because if you manage to focus on getting that one headshot, you're going to get a very fast TTK. If you miss that headshot, the gun has kind of a slowish TTK relative to a lot of the TTK options that are available in the close range meta. Important ranges, you can see kind of where the 16 meters is probably taking care of most of your close range engagements. You don't get caught off guard and are a little bit too far, like at a stairway, a hallway, where you're gonna go above 9 meters, and that's kind of where like maybe the WSP Swarm, the Lachmann Shroud conversion kit, and the WSP Stingers, which are kind of a problem in South America right now. Downs per mag are pretty uniform all the way across the board. And then the miss penalty. This is one of the things that's the biggest weakness with the WSP9, even though it has a fast TTK. The miss penalty, this is the time between shots. So for every miss, 73 milliseconds, 90 milliseconds. And the faster the fire rate, the smaller this number. The slower the fire rate, WSP9, a big penalty. Reclaimers included with this. So although it is ridiculously broken, you can get a 2-shot kill up to about 2.5 meters, and 9 meters, you get around a 3-shot kill. It has a slow reload. Problem is that you can actually have a huge miss penalty, and you can put yourself at a disadvantage if you go against more than one person. If you don't manage to get the down, wasting ammo on the thirst. There's some unique issues there. But if you know what you're doing, you're used to playing shotguns, this thing is pretty broken, especially when you swapping it to that semi-auto. So we'll go ahead and start off here. I think these ones are more of like honorable mentions. I think the Lachmann Shroud has its own issues, but are you really going to use it over the other ones unless you just like the MP5? The thing I just want to talk about a few different stat points that are important when it comes to different weapon balance. One of the things that a lot of people neglect is this bullet velocity. Sitting around 334 is terrible, and that's pretty bad. Fennec struggled with this through All Out Warzone 1 and even in this current Warzone. But the thing is, you kind of want to get closer around 500 to 600 in general, just because then your bullet reg's better. A lot of times you'll feel like a gun should be good, but then you just don't get good bullet registration, and a lot of it comes down to bullet velocity. And you notice this with a lot of guns because of the hit scan factor as well, where you're going to have struggling issues on that bullet velocity. The range is another one that's important that we looked at. With the fully built out, you ideally want to get at least 15 around there meters of range, because most of your engagements will be between 8 to 12 meters for close range. And then there's little drop-offs where maybe it'll be 20 meters and 40 meters for what you're going to use your rifle for. The other thing is the sprint to fire. You kind of want that to hover around 100 if you can. If you get caught off guard, that can be an issue. And then ADS speed 200-ish. If you go too high, near 275, 300, it's going to end up being a problem. Versus in this case, you are faster than that, and then you end up with a pretty decent build. The unfortunate part about this is we get an extra attachment. You can make it faster, but since it's based off percent, you don't get much of a difference. You can go the stock, but all the stock options suck pretty much here. You can go movement, but then your recoil is terrible, and it's probably not even fun to use at that point. So you kind of can use whatever you want there, but this is 4 attachments. And overall, it's going to feel okay. I mean, we use the MP5 for forever, but you just end up with a situation where the reload's not particularly fast. That's another issue that we've seen with the BP50. That's kind of the main holdback on that one. But overall, you can kind of see how that gun builds out, and you get an extra attachment to literally do whatever the heck you want. Keeping in mind that the TTK on this isn't ridiculous. Akimbo Stingers, this is a huge problem in South America. I get tagged about this pretty much daily. It's not really an issue in North America or even in Europe. People do like these, but not like South America where they infest every lobby. I think it has to do with maybe like the ratio of keyboard and mouse players to controller. I don't know. But they usually tend to have a little bit of a different meta. Biggest problem with this one, hipfire is a little bit harder to manage when you are on controller, just because the sensitivity is way faster in hipfire than it is in aim down sight, so you can lead to some issues. On top of that, the hipfire on these things isn't generally great. Even when you build it out for that, it's still pretty wide, and the range kind of sucks. So you kind of have to barrel stuff. You'll get some satisfaction kills, but it's great in a one-on-one when you know where the person is and you can close that distance. But overall, kind of an honorable mention. Then we have the Reclaimer. I put OP here. I think it's going to get nerfed. Shotguns tend to get nerfed pretty quick because people complain about them. Then we got the Swarm, which was an old meta, still has plenty of issues. The rest of the guns on the list are kind of just outshine it. The thing here is you're going to use the build for this. You got to put it in tac stance. You're no way you're going to use this regular. It's just not really practical. You get so much more vision, and you can see the hipfire spread as I switch it to semi-auto by pressing left on the D-pad. It will go ahead and tighten up that spread, lead to more accuracy. But on addition to that, if I spam the trigger, you can see how slow it is. And then we're going to go ahead and switch it over to the semi-auto, and you'll see this is what got buffed. So it manages to put out some good DPS, but if you're missing, again, those penalties will add up and the reload is kind of slow. Swarm, overall, the nice part with this new suppressor is you can use it on pretty much every gun. I know there will be some slight variance for some people. I know some people still like the Zem, but when you compare these, it's not that big a difference. We can go ahead and look here. It says that this is 211 ADS speed. If I go ahead and switch this over, 215 with the 134 versus 128. Negligible differences in ADS speed and sprint to fire, and you're getting way more recoil control, which allows you to maybe supplement that in movement. Since this gun struggles with bullet range or effective damage range, you kind of got to lean into that. But if it didn't, you would lean into a mobility one and not worry about having a terrible recoil control. Even up close, that's not big of a priority. You do want that 12 to 20 meter range where maybe you want to be able to challenge an engagement and not feel like the gun's going everywhere. So yeah, she can use this, but then we're starting to get into some better options, and then inevitably the ultimate meta options that I think the majority of players are kind of leaning towards. We got the MCW. Like I said, when it comes to the stats, this thing helps. If you go ahead and take this off, it's still going to be slow. That's part of the problem with this gun. The sprint to fire and the ADS never made it feel like an SMG. It always feels slow. So if you have really good reaction time, you could probably enjoy this. The range is great, 20 meters, but it's kind of a slow gun. Overall, this new suppressor, though, kind of makes things a little bit like crazier on almost every... It's crazy. I don't think we've ever... Maybe the JAK BFB was pretty close. I think there was way more downsides with the JAK BFB, but man, this thing is so nice to use. WSP9. Same thing. Like I said, we don't need the range quite as much, so we could put on a mobility stuff here. We're running the 40 mag because this weapon is generally slower, and then the damage per mag is still pretty good. Even when we're talking about a gun like this, you're going to be able to do pretty well. Open bolt delay, missing shot penalty is pretty high, but the suppressor has kind of changed things up a little bit, so you get extra mobility attachments. Like I said, you could go the 50 round mag, but the 40 is still kind of slow on that gun. And these next four, I feel like these are all the most competitive. The other ones, you can compete, they're viable, but these are the most competitive options in my opinion, which is the FGX, the BP50, and then the Superi and the Static, the brand new Static. The FGX, pretty much my only problem or gripe with this gun is the effective damage range. 10 meters just doesn't really cut it compared to the other ones. It's ADS speed, recoil, bullet velocity. It checks every other box. Fast reload. The only problem it has is that 9 meter range. And even though you can try to maximize it, it's still not going to put it in a good spot. You could use the conversion kit, but the TTK on the conversion kit isn't particularly good unless you're running sniper support, which we covered when we did the head-to-head on this gun. So I think this is kind of the way to go, and just realize you have to get much closer if you're trying to get a fast TTK. This one, on paper, every statistic, it should pretty much be the 100% pound for pound meta. And once you use it, you'll realize how good it is. Its only drawback is the reload, in my opinion. It has good iron sights, so you get a free attachment. If you don't want the laser, you can go ahead and put it on the optic. I mean, you only got one attachment slot left, but you can kind of see how this works out. The movement speed, still pretty good. It does not feel like a rifle. With the update a while back, it made it so it used SMG ammo, So now you don't have to worry about competing with your STG ammo. So, I mean, overall, low recoil, good bullet velocity, good ADS, good strafe speed, good sprint to fire, everything except for this slow reload speed that you can be worried about if you're really trying to play aggressive. And then we got the two newest, which are the Superi, which came out last season. Still very good. This new suppressor I like a lot. You could go with the other stock if you want to go with the Cutthroat, because that one's gonna worsen your recoil. But I think people tend to like the tac sprint a little bit better. And this is kind of how that one works out. Overall, pretty good. You still get all the things I was talking about. Good bullet velocity, good ADS. You can see this one moves just a little bit faster than the BP. The reload, insanely fast. It has a little bit of a smaller mag, but it makes up for that with how fast the reload is. You can go ahead and get behind cover, get a quick reload in, and then re-challenge, and then you're back into the gunfight, which is pretty nice for the gun. Then last but not least, the static, which is a great, probably the best sniper support besides the BP-50 at the moment with the conversion kit. I think this is a good all-around gun. 50 round stock ammo is nice. You could go ahead and maybe change some things here, but because of where the gun positions, you have a 600 bullet velocity, great. ADS speed, 167, sprint to fires, 91, movement speed's decent. And it's effective range, 16 meters for that first damage, and it shoots pretty straight. Like, it's kind of like the jack of all trades at the moment, and I think that's why a lot of people are liking it. So hopefully you get to enjoy it, try it. I don't think it'll particularly get nerfed. Hopefully, because of the way the headshot works, it does reward that accuracy, and we see some other guns get slightly buffed to make up for it, because TTK isn't everything, especially with this being over 650. Without that headshot, it's still pretty solid, and you kind of mix and match between probably about 3 or 4 options. Let me know what you're liking right now in season 5. Besides having to deal with any kind of cheaters, what does your meta build look like? Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.